You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Aaron Walker and Heather Dyer. Tune in weekly to get inspired and make good food. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Walker, and I am joined by Heather Dyer. Hello. Hello there. I have been really excited for this episode. It was really fun.
This is one of the funnest episodes in terms of what I learned. I didn't realize how much I didn't know about tea before we started this.
You don't know what you don't know. It's so true, because we had been following the tea girl on Instagram.
Exactly.
And we'd been watching her blend teas and talk about tea and these beautiful cups of tea. And I was like, Aaron, we need to have...
Why have we not talked about tea?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually did know that I didn't know a lot about tea.
I assumed I didn't know a lot about it, but I never made the effort to
learn. Well, now you have. And now all our listeners will as well, because you're about to learn a lot.
And we often like to put some food in with it. We thought it would be kind of fun. We've been seeing these gorgeous, gorgeous toasts.
Oh, it's so funny how these trends come.
Right? Everyone is making pretty toast. And so we thought this is the perfect opportunity to make pretty tasty toast and have it with some delicious, also very pretty tea.
That's right. We're having tea and toast. I know you were thinking tea and cookies, but no, not here at Three Kitchens. We like to think outside the box, and we're having tea and toast.
So we both made a savory toast and a sweet toast. I picked up 2 baguettes at Lena's Italian Bakery. One was a white baguette and the other one was a multigrain baguette.
So I used the multigrain baguette for the savory toast. We used the white for the sweet toast.
Great. Before we put toppings on, we sliced it, we oiled it with some olive oil on both sides, and then we just quickly popped it onto the barbecue to crisp it and grill it. And then we put toppings on. Heather, do you want to start us off with what you crafted?
Sure. So I made a chili crisp avocado toast because, I mean, if you're talking toast, you kind of have to have an avocado toast in there, I think.
Right?
Chili crisp avocado toast, right directly on the toast. You've got nori, which is seaweed, those sheets of seaweed which you roll sushi in. Then on that you have sliced avocado, chili crisp drizzled over, a few sprouts or microgreens.
Oh yeah,
on top, and that's it.
That was really good.
I really liked it too. I thought it was yummy.
I liked the seaweed with the avocado.
Mm-hmm.
It took your avocado toast to the next level. I liked that flavor.
Yeah, and I like anything with chili crisp.
Well, that was the obvious win too.
Yeah. Okay, how about you tell us about your savory toast?
Okay, so I took a zucchini and tomato with feta cheese and chives. I grilled up the zucchini on the barbecue and then fresh sliced tomatoes. And then I got some really delicious fresh feta cheese from the Springbank Cheese Company, which is near us. And then we added some chive flowers at the end.
Oh,
and
so yummy.
If you wanted, you could totally drizzle a little bit of extra olive oil on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could. It was really delicious and fresh, like with the vegetables. It's simple, and it seems like it'd be like, whatever. But something about the combination.
Yeah.
Yummy. I could eat that for lunch, like every day. And that feta, I don't know what magic goes into that feta from Springbank cheese, but wow, it was really yummy.
It was so creamy. Oh God, I loved it.
Okay, let's move on to sweet toast. I did a honey roasted rhubarb toast. This one I actually was following a blog post from the rhubarbarians.com, which I thought was a really cute blog name.
I love that.
All right, so you take rhubarb and cut it into pieces. You're going to kind of stand them up on your toast. So don't make them too long or they'll topple over or be hard to eat. Drizzle them with honey and roast them in the oven just until they are soft but not falling apart, because if you leave rhubarb too long in the heat, it will get kind of soft and delicious, but won't stand up on your toast. And then on your toast, you're putting ricotta cheese, which I put in a small bowl and used a whisk and just sort of whipped it up so that it was creamy. And then you put your rhubarb, chopped pistachio, fresh mint, and a drizzle of honey on the whole thing.
Yum.
Yeah, it was yummy.
I
like anything with rhubarb, honestly.
I was gonna say, you can put rhubarb with anything and winner.
Yeah, I liked it with the ricotta.
Yeah, the ricotta with that and like the crunch from the nuts and that little bit of mint in there was so good. I really enjoyed that one. For my sweet one, on white baguette, I spread goat cheese on the toast, and then I had slices of strawberry and basil on the toast, and then I made a balsamic reduction and just drizzled that on top.
Yum.
And
Yum.
that balsamic reduction was super easy to make. I popped some balsamic in a pot on the stove and just boiled it and simmered it until it was thicker.
Yeah, and you want it a little thicker because so that it sort of stays on your toast. If it's too thin, it will just sort of run off the strawberry and the basil and it won't stay. So you do want to thicken it a little bit so that it stays on your toast so you get all those flavors together. It gets sweeter.
Yeah, when it's more concentrated like that, I feel like it is a little bit sweeter too, isn't it? It changes it a bit.
I love that. I thought it was so yummy.
I love some sort of really tart acid with that sweetness. And after you made that shrub that had the balsamic and basil in it, that's when I was like, oh, these flavors have to go on our sweet toast.
So yummy.
Yeah. And we had a green tea and a red tea.
That's true. Colored. Yeah. I think it's called electric blue lemonade, which looks green in your cup. And then we had the
raspberry cordial.
These are from the Tea Girl, and this is our guest you're about to hear from. Her name is Sarah. She started a company called The Tea Girl. You can find her at theteagirl.com and order these teas because so good and so creative. And you're going to hear exactly how she does it and all the things about tea.
Yes. We learned about different infusions into your hot water and when you call it tea and when you call it an herbal infusion and what is rooibos. All these questions were answered for me.
Yeah, and how you could maybe make your own chai spice blend. Yes. To put with your tea if you want to try to do it yourself.
You can really just play with this and it's like a whole new way to zhuzh up your tea that you're drinking.
So theteagirl.com only ships within Canada. If you're not here in Canada, keep listening because even if you can't order her tea, which is really sad for you because it's so good, you're going to learn a lot about tea and how it's blended and how. So you'll have more information when you go out to your local tea and you can go and track down someone who knows all about tea and you'll be better educated and drink better tea.
Yeah. So enjoy our interview. And if you make some pretty toast, send us some pictures so we can see what you're eating on your toast too.
Totally. Well, welcome, Sarah. We're really happy to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited. I like to talk to anybody about tea.
Anybody and everybody.
Yeah, exactly. No, everyone wants to talk about tea. It's neutral. We all love it. We all relate to it somehow.
So yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it's something that actually, when we started kind of thinking about it, we don't know all that much about. Like when I looked at your website and I saw that you were a tea sommelier, I was like, wait, what? I thought that was just a wine word. So clearly there could be sommeliers for all sorts of things, and I didn't know. So what is a tea sommelier and how did you become one?
I stumbled into it. It is definitely kind of co-opted from the wine industry. The tea industry kind of has lots of education all over the place, and the Canadian Tea Association wanted to put out their own education system. So they kind of looked at the wine industry and was like, how do we do this and make it about tea? So they kind of looked at what, how you study wine and just put tea sommelier in front of it and And then since it was a new program, they needed people to teach it. So they had to ask people in the industry that had a lot of experience. So that's kind of how I came into it. So I literally kind of stumbled into it, had to do some crash courses. We all had to challenge the exam and help kind of create it. And now it's kind of up and running in its own little thing that the Tea Association does, but it's just one of many ways to educate yourself on tea.
So this is the first I'm hearing of this. What does the Tea Association do?
Lots of things. They help the tea industry and specialty tea industry. They help lobby government, rep the industry, move it forward. And now I think they've rebranded to the Tea and Herbal Association because tea seems to pick up herbs. Tea and herbs.
Okay.
Is there any tea produced in Canada?
Oh, yeah, there is.
Oh, okay. Because I just always assumed it was always imported.
Yeah, it is normally, yes.
Okay.
I would consider it an imported product. It's one of those things, like everything, we like to experiment with it at home. So there are some things like in more like in Victoria. There's some, but it's not really a commercially viable option. And how much they grow is not. It's not like wine in that way. It is very a temperate climate type product. So it is cropping up. And of course, as we warm our planet up, it'll be easier to grow everywhere.
We can all have a tea plant in the backyard.
Oh, can you imagine? So on that, is all tea from the same plant?
Yes, if we want to talk about tea and strictly tea. So a lot of times people talk about tea and they mean anything infused in water. When I talk about tea, I'm talking about Camellia sinensis, which is one tea plant with lots of varietals or clones or different parts of the family of Camellia sinensis, but it's all one family of tea plant. So yes, it all comes from there, and then it's produced differently. So different varietals, they might grow for a different type of tea, and then they'll produce it in a different way for a different like green or black or oolong tea, but essentially it's all the same.
And what do you mean by producing it in a different way? Do you mean like picking it at a different stage of the plant's life, or like drying it versus, I don't know.
Drying it after. Yeah, no, the production means everything, but usually they want to pick the young leaves on it. So it's like the first terminal bud and leaf. And then they take that and then they go to their factories, and usually within 24 hours. So the whole process takes 24 hours typically. They go from a withering to a rolling to a drying and then produce their tea. So that would be like the production of tea. So there's different stages in that for each different method. And actually sometimes each different tea that's being produced.
Wow.
Green and white are what we would call, if you want to talk very general terms, the lightest produced. So green, the growers want to preserve that green color. So they want to not allow it to oxidize at all because it turns into black tea. So they want to heat it. They'll either steam it like they will in Japan, or they'll apply heat in like a wok, and they'll dry the leaves and they'll shape them, and that will kill the enzymes that preserve the color of the leaf. And so we call that really lightly processed and unoxidized. White tea is typically a varietal that usually has a lot of white fuzz on the leaf, very young buds, usually in the spring. And then they want to do the least amount of processing to it and keep it in its most natural state. So although we call it unoxidized, it might be a little bit oxidized because we want to do very little to it. And they just want to like dry it, either at the light heat or sun dry it. And then if it's like a black tea, it's called fully oxidized. So you wither it, you allow the cell membranes to break apart, all the nice leaf juices come out there and starts to wither, and then it starts to oxidize. So it interacts with the oxygen, turns this brown color. And then when it gets to the right brown color that the tea factory or the tea master, whoever's making it, wants to stop it, then they heat it to stop that process, and that preserves it that way. So basically, it's a whole process of removing moisture, allowing some chemical process to happen, and then getting to a very dry state so that preserves it. Yeah, in a nutshell.
Okay, so I feel like this naturally kind of goes into talking about how that affects the caffeine.
Sure.
One of the things I've always heard is that green teas and white teas have a higher caffeine level than the black teas. Is that something to do with this process?
They're great wives' tales.
Oh, cool.
Oh, fun. She's myth busting.
Yeah, myth busting. That's
Awesome.
what we used to think, and then we got really educated about it. So Each cultivar has a different amount of caffeine in the leaf. So some cultivars have really high caffeine content, some have really low caffeine content. How it's grown, when it's picked, all of these have a lot to do with that. Yeah, so it's never just about how it's produced. It's a lot about that individual plant itself. So let's see, like growing season, the nutrients, if it has a lot of fertilizer, it'll produce more caffeine. If it's shaded, it produces more caffeine. And then, the type of the plant. And then, the processing will also change it all.
So everything affects caffeine is what you're saying.
Yeah. One company in Montreal that's actually done studies on how you drink your tea, and they've done it with a combination with a lab, and they've looked at it and they've said, okay, I'm steeping this particular tea this long, and then they looked at the caffeine and it's all over. Some are really high, some are really low, and you look at this chart and you're like, oh, that changes everything that I thought I knew.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, I love the results, and looking at all that stuff, I'm like, oh, how does this actually affect this?
So if you are purchasing tea and you want decaf, or it's like bedtime and you don't want caffeine before bed, and you're looking in your cupboard and you're like, what kind of tea should I have before bed? Are they truly decaf if it says decaf?
It's never truly decaf.
That's kind of what I thought.
And that's the other thing, because it's kind of like you can't take the caffeine out of the tea. It's just part of it. And they're very good at it. But then what goes with that is that you're also taking a lot out of that tea plant. So decaf tea is typically a black tea. I find that all those teas are kind of bland after. The best route, I always tell people, drink an herbal infusion. Find something you love, drink an herbal infusion.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so let's talk, since you've said it now, let's talk, what is herbal tea?
Okay, so herbal infusions, if we want to be very correct. I know, because herbal tea is an oxymoron. So herbal infusions, which is almost anything. I mean, anything you steep in hot water is an infusion. So tea is technically an infusion. It's just a tea infusion. Yeah, we can steep anything in hot water. And we kind of take it under our umbrella, except coffee. Okay. So yeah, but things like flowers and lots of herbs, I know a little bit about. I know how to blend with them. I know what they taste like. That's pretty much where my expertise stops. I add flowers to tea to make it look pretty. Some of it does have flavor. Spices have flavor, that sort of thing. There's a lot of cultural significance with spices, so those are added to tea a lot.
What is a rooibos?
Yes, that's a great question.
Can someone tell me how to say this?
Rooibos.
Rooibos.
Like rooibos.
Rooibos. Okay.
It's a South African evergreen plant, so it is naturally caffeine free. They do oxidize it like they do with tea, so it turns this nice red color, but it's not a tea plant at all, so it's just naturally caffeine free. So it's an infusion. It takes flavor really nice. It doesn't have that caffeine, so it doesn't have that depth. There are people that don't like it. That would be me.
I can see. I like it. I think rooibos.
Some people love it. I think it's just the flavor, and I think it's one of those dividing things. I have lots. I know how to blend with it. I like honeybush a little bit more. Honeybush is very similar. It's kind of related to rooibos.
Never heard of that.
Takes flavor nice. I flavor more things on that now.
So you keep using these words, blending and flavoring.
Yes. What are they? Okay, so blending is the physical blending of two items. So you put this one herb with this other and stir it up. That's a blend.
Okay.
So it's just like mixing. Whereas flavoring involves a chemical that you're putting on the tea or the herbs to add a flavor to it.
Okay.
To get a strawberry tea, you don't put strawberries in it. You put a chemical flavor that has all these volatile chemicals that in a lab they've said these taste like strawberries. And then you put that on the tea leaves, you let that dry and evaporate, and then you have a tea that smells and tastes like strawberries. And then it looks kind of boring. So then you blend little bits of strawberry or flowers or whatever you want with it to make it look pretty, and then it's nice.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
So when I buy that raspberry flavored tea that has little red berry pieces in it, I'm not getting flavor from the berry.
Not really. Marginally.
Oh.
Yeah, no, flavors and the way we interpret flavors, we're always adding on a flavor agent to it.
So when you make this kind of thing, are you buying the agent, adding it to tea, or are you buying the tea already flavored like the...
No, I am taking I have a whole bunch of different flavors, and I physically figure out what it would go with, well, what's popular, what I want to put together. I have to try it with different bases because you're like, will this go good with a black tea? Try all those out, steep them all, and then figure out if that's enough, if you want more. And then once I get kind of like the base and how much I want on there, then I'll add different things to make it look pretty.
What is the element then when you're putting things together that colors the tea? Like how it turns this beautiful red color.
So like the raspberry cordial. So that one is an herbal infusion. Typically, if it's a fruit infusion, it's almost always paired with hibiscus because that gives it a really sweet but tart flavor. Hibiscus, when you steep it, steeps a really bright pink red.
It must be very fun to experiment.
It can be, yes. It can be very fun, and then it can be very annoying.
Okay, one of the questions we have, is the temperature of the water really that important?
I love these questions. Yes, depends on the tea. Very important for more delicate teas, especially when you get into really nice delicate teas. So I would say like your really nice green teas, especially for your sencha or your girokiro, which is like Japanese green teas. Really hot water kind of, they say, burns the tea, or all of the chemicals come out too quickly. The flavor is not balanced. So you want 70 Celsius, but generally if you're just enjoying tea to enjoy tea, just if you drop that temperature a bit for your greens. Most of the other teas, no, it doesn't matter that much, but the temperature does change what's coming out. So it's really interesting to play with it. If you lower your temperature, everything comes out slower. It's usually a sweeter flavor.
I think we talked about this. Erin and I both have kettles that don't tell us the temperature.
Yeah.
There's tricks. You don't have to have that. Like I would just say, put a little bit of cold water and then put your hot water on top. There's a method of putting your hot water into a mug. That will drop at about 10 degrees Fahrenheit anyway, each time. So if you put it in a container and then you put it in a container again, it starts to drop the temperature. And these are like older ways of dropping temperature before you have your tea. So yes, you can still boil it and then just do transfers to get it to the right temperature.
I just start my kettle, I let it boil, and then I forget about it for at least 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I walk back in the kitchen and I'm like, oh, I boiled water half an hour ago. It's probably good for green tea now.
That's perfect.
You can drink tea with almost nothing. You need hot water and a vessel, and everything else is a luxury. So you could do it really simple, or you can make it complicated. I started to weigh my leaves all the time. As a general rule, a teaspoon per cup is good. But if each tea is really different, and then you can weigh your water too.
These are all the variables that I never really realized go into making a good cup of tea.
Oh, yes.
Where do you source your ingredients that you use to then make your blends and all your herbals? And where do you find all this stuff?
If you're doing it for yourself, you can find a lot of things in your backyard. I go through distributors wherever the best quality at the best season. So you just start to learn what your suppliers do really well.
That's super interesting. Okay, should we take a quick little break? We'll come back and we'll talk about chai. Wait a second. Is chai tea? Am I using two words the same? Chai tea?
You're saying the same word twice.
I didn't know that.
You did not know that? Erin Walker was today years old when she learned that chai means tea.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you're enjoying our conversation with Sarah, the tea girl. We are always on the lookout for knowledgeable, fun, and interesting people, like Sarah, to talk with on the show. If you or someone you know has a fascinating story or a food specialty they want to share with us, click the link in our show notes or email us at 3kitchenspodcast@gmail.com for more information. We can't wait to meet our next amazing guest.
Okay. So tell us about chai.
So chai is just another word for tea. All of these words came originally from China and the Asia area. So they're both from different languages there. And a quick way to remember, it's tea if by sea, and then cha or chai if by land. The way that the trade routes worked.
Okay.
everything that was accessed by the sea, so like the Portuguese, then the Dutch and the English took like the Fujian area, the language there, and the symbol they pronounced it as tea. So that's where that word came from. And then if it went by land and all the trade routes over the mountains, so into like Persia, that area, then it would be called chai. So the Mandarin word for tea is chai.
I didn't know it was a Mandarin origin.
As words morph, so each language kind of has a different pronunciation of it. In Asia, it's all cha. Like in Japan, it was also like matcha, bancha, sencha. In China, it'd be like lucha. So all of these things have that cha, which is tea. And then it moves into that Persian area and it's called chai. And then as we do, we bastardize these things over in North America. So we take these little bits of culture, then we put our stamp on it and Starbucks takes over and we're like, it's this. So chai know it as something that comes from India because of our British roots, because the British occupied India for so long and they brought tea there, and then the spices existed in their culture and the two got merged. And then that became a very big thing that was sold on the streets from chai sellers or chai wallas. So that history and like how those cultures created these things and our colonialization of all these places, like there's a little bit of, history to learn there, but also that it doesn't mean one thing. Different areas have different flavors that they really like, especially in spices, and different countries put different spices in them. And also maybe you're just family puts a different spice in it. It's like your mother's chocolate chip cookie recipe. It's a very deeply personal thing and definitely like regional thing. When we talk about it, we're just referring to that little slice of like Indian culture where we're like, oh, it's a spiced black tea. Whereas the word means more than that.
Right. So pre-colonialization, from your understanding, were the Chinese trading with the Indians, and was that spiced tea something that existed, or was that something that
No, it wasn't, because it became with the British. The two got merged.
Oh, interesting that the Brits brought the tea
seems
to
very
Asia.
Circumvented over.
Yeah,
Kind of went all the way around and back down.
It did. Yeah.
Oh.
The British really wanted like monopoly on tea. China had a monopoly on tea. They were addicted to tea, and so they needed their own supply of it at this point. So because they occupied India, they grew it in India, and then they monopolized the tea industry out of India. So they grow all of their native plants there, and then they started exporting Indian tea plants.
Oh, so interesting, right?
And then why does it have milk? Because the British put milk in their tea. So that's like it was all merged.
Okay, really quick, what's your opinion, your personal, I know it's just your personal opinion, not your expertise. What's your personal opinion on milk in tea?
Everything has a place everywhere.
It's so diplomatic.
So diplomatic.
I don't really like milk in tea. So I was just curious. Some people are very passionate about it, right?
And that's a very British or, European way. So it depends on what I'm drinking. If I would like more of a British style tea or a British colonial chai, I would like it with milk, because that's what I'm drinking. It might not be appreciating the leaves for what it is, but it's appreciating a drink and a culture. So,
right.
It's a place for everything and everything in its place.
Oh, how nice.
Exactly. Exactly what it is.
As long as you're drinking tea and you're liking it, right?
Yeah.
You do whatever you want to do. There are no rules about how you drink your tea. That's fine.
There we go.
So, as long as you're drinking it.
You heard it here, folks.
Okay, so then what kind of spices are we putting in our chai teas? In our chai. Sorry.
I'm just going to let it slide.
That's going to be a hard habit to break.
Typically, variety, you can have as little as, I just might want some cardamom in there, to like, I want a blend of 7 secret spices.
Ooh, okay.
Typically, cinnamon is a very big one. Cardamom and ginger, black pepper, star anise, fennel, coriander, licorice root. All of these are things that you put in there. If you like it really spicy, you could put some chili in there. So it just depends on what you like. But at its root, I would say, like, if you had cinnamon, ginger, and cardamom, you're going to get that really nice blend. Those 3 are kind of the popular ones. I've got a chocolate chili chai. If I want kind of just all of them, I'll put them all in, but never all the same amount.
Okay.
Myself, I like cinnamon a lot in my chai. I use a little bit more cinnamon. I like ginger. So those two I'm always using the most. Personally, I like 50% black tea to 50% spices.
So can anybody grab a black tea that they like and then just start adding spices to it?
Sure.
Is that how you can start?
Yes, you can. I give you permission.
Okay, see you guys. It's been nice talking.
I like loose tea, but if there's one that you love, I think you should start with what you like. The spices are going to overpower something if it's too light. So that's why you do need a good ratio. But if you're like, no, I mostly like spice and I don't want a lot of black tea, then put less in there. You can start with whatever. I typically like to use whole spices, but like broken whole spices. My favorite tool for this is a magic bullet blender. So I put, you can put spices in there to chop them up. You don't want powder, but you want freshly crushed is always amazing. Then you get nice fresh flavors. And just start there and see what you like. And then, yeah, I would just try a little bit and then steep it and see what you think. I think you can't go wrong with it.
No, this sounds like a whole
fun.
new game to start playing. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, you'll have your own custom chai.
There's one spice that I feel like you haven't mentioned. Nutmeg.
Nutmeg. Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't. That's so funny.
I don't know why. It's just one of the spices that I will buy whole.
Yeah. Yeah, it's lovely. It's definitely one you can use. I find nutmeg overpowering, and for me, it tastes like Christmas. So for me, I wouldn't put it. I have, but yeah, you can. People love nutmeg.
Okay, I was going to say, is there something like against?
No, there's no rules. No rules.
No rules. Okay.
The great thing about the whole nutmeg is that you use that grater and then you'll have fresh, and a little bit goes a really long way.
Well, this is fun. It's like experimenting.
Turmeric is another one.
It's got good color.
It would make it quite bright yellow.
This is super fun. I can see Erin's wheels turning. She's like thinking up her blend.
I'm going to be playing with all sorts of tea and spices, and watch out, Heather.
Like rose is another one of those things. The whole putting pistachios in here as well, and nuts. And
so there's really no end to what I can put into tea is what you're now telling me.
I think so, yes. Some of what you won't get a flavor, some you will. So it's very fascinating. The world of flavor.
No kidding.
And the world of tea. And I put them together.
You have a lot of varieties. So you sent us some samples, which we have been enjoying.
Oh yeah.
You sent us some samples along with adorable little branded like tea bags and a little spoon and like, oh, so cute. So do you yourself typically use tea bags, or do you like to do like do you just put it loose in your cup? Do you put like the little metal spoon, or like what? I
have 3 ways that I love to do my tea. If I'm at home, I use the full in-cup infuser. It sits in my mug and it has lots of space in it. It allows your tea to expand. It's really easy to clean. If I'm going out somewhere, I will use my own tea bags all the time. This is my 3rd favorite way to brew tea. And this is a 1-cup teapot. The more you get into tea, the smaller your teapots get.
It is so adorable. It's a clear glass, teeny tiny tea. It's so cute.
And what I love about it is that I can put 1 teaspoon in here, and then it brews super nicely. And I have all of these little pitchers as well, and a couple things that are stolen from the coffee world. You want to always take your infusion once it's done and put it into a vessel, like a little pitcher. That way everything is steeped at the same amount of time.
I now need so many more tea accessories that I never knew I needed, but in this moment, I do not have enough.
We knew that was going to happen. Is there a tea that you're selling that is currently like the most popular thing?
Always cream Earl Grey. I did send you that because I know it's the most popular. It's a black tea base. It has a Assam in it, and it has a Sri Lankan black tea. So it's a blend of 2 black teas, and then it has bergamot on it and a lot of vanilla. And then to make it look pretty, we have these nice bright white cornflowers and jasmine blossoms, and then some blue cornflowers as well. And it's one of the most popular things. People just love this.
What is bergamot?
Bergamot is an Italian citrus fruit. It is a little fruit. It's kind of greenish in color. It's got a very hard rind, and it's a cross between a bitter orange and a lime grapefruit. So a true bergamot should be bitter orange, slight lemon, and flowery.
Huh.
I know.
Today years old. I should just mark this down as the day I learned everything to do with tea.
Yes, it is the most popular flavored tea for sure. Absolutely.
It's safe to say we have learned
A few things.
a lot. We want to encourage all of our listeners to go and follow the Tea Girl, and you can learn so much just from, like, I love when you do like little videos where you're blending stuff.
Yes.
And you're talking about like what's in it, and just like it's so fascinating.
Yeah, we're going to do more of those.
So can you tell our listeners your accounts and where they can find you, your website?
The Tea Girl, found at theteagirl.com, or mostly on Instagram at the Tea Girl. Because tea is so visual, we need to be on Instagram. And because we're so busy, I don't care about the rest.
Hey, that's fair. Totally fair.
If you have a question, you should email me at ilovetea@theteagirl.com. That's where you email me all your weird questions. And then if it's a question that I haven't answered yet, I will write you back a paragraph of what I've learned, and then I'll turn it into a blog post.
Awesome. And everybody go order tea.
Time to have a tea party.
Yeah. Cool, fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun. Yeah, you can always send me your questions and we'll answer them, or we'll learn things.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, we're here to talk about coffee. No.
Wait, what?
What?
I'm not ready. I'm not prepared.